Hey, everybody.
Hello.
What up, planty people?
Hello.
We finally got Jodi.
We did. We have a special guest today, our friend Jodi P. She is here to tell us about her planted tanks. She's experimenting with CO2 for the first time.
She's got
RO water going. It's an exciting journey.
It is.
It is. So that tank behind you is what's getting CO2, right?
Yeah, that one behind me. And I'm sorry, the lights are just ramping back up. They come on at 4.
Oh. Why don't I do that with my tanks? Like, I sleep so damn long, and I'm not even looking at my tanks while I'm working. My back is turned to them, so I still have them come on in the morning, and then they turn off at like 10:30.
Yeah, actually, that's one of my questions for you is like a lighting schedule with CO2, because right now we're up stupid early, so we like the tank to be on while we're all up in the morning and home. Then by, I think, 10 o'clock, this shuts off, and then it comes back on at 4 when we're all home again.
Yeah, that's the way I had it whenever Jenna was a teacher. She would get up super early, and I'd want her to be able to see the tanks in the morning. So what we would do is just have a very long ramp up where it starts off at a very low lighting for hours, and then there's like a 6 to 8 hour peak where you have your max photo period and like intensity. But yeah, it would be like a 15+ hour photo period in some of our tanks. But it works if you ramp it up.
Yeah, I do 10 hours. So I work from home, but I don't usually come downstairs. I work the first like couple hours a day, like a real soft start to my day. So I don't come downstairs until noon. And so my lights come on at noon, and then they go off at 10. And I do just a 30-minute ramp up and a ramp down because I want to enjoy my tanks more later in the day. I think that as long as your photo period total is not more than, let's say, 13 hours, 14 hours, you got to think about, where our plants come from. Most of them come from the tropics, where photo periods are 12 hours long, and they don't have a lot of the sunset and the sunrise is really, really short. So like when I was in Colombia and Panama and Costa Rica, when the sun starts to come up, it's like, bam, it's up like that. And then at night, the sun goes down at like, depending on the time zone, either 5 or 6 o'clock at night. So Costa Rica is 5 o'clock, Panama is 6 o'clock, and it goes down so fast. Whereas like, you're used to in the summer, like this long sundown. Whereas in the tropics, it's so fast. Like the sunset takes like a half hour and it's over. So I do a very short. Now you don't have to mimic the tropics. You can make it suited to your lifestyle.
I don't think there's a rule like don't exceed 13 hours, because I exceed 13 hours in quite a few of my tanks.
Right.
The plants can adapt to different conditions.
They can. It's just one more lever you can pull. If you're seeing a lot of algae, you can shorten that photo period. You can lower the intensity. You can make the ramp up more gradual. If your lifestyle, like you're not seeing your tanks enough, you can change it somewhat. So there is no hard and fast rule. I do 10 hours because that's what I've just been doing, and it suits my life.
So,
some people do that split photo period for the siesta. I don't think there's an actual growth benefit to it. And other than just you're gone for a long time during the day, and you want to see it in the morning, you want to see it in the afternoon. It would be for your convenience rather than for growth enhancement.
Yeah. And for me, that wouldn't be convenient because I work from home.
Same.
I can enjoy my tanks. I don't have to do my job, but when I take breaks and eat my lunch, I can come out and look at my tanks anytime during the day. I'm really only gone when I'm at yoga. That's only for an hour. I'm not going to have a siesta for an hour. It's pointless. But I don't think that there's any physiological benefit to the plants. And I think it's kind of weird for the fish too, because our brains and animal brains are governed by photo periods.
Right.
And it's weird for them to have 2 photo periods.
I wonder if you can
Weird for us.
spawning multiple times a day by doing that.
What did you say?
I said, I wonder if you can trick a rainbow fish into like coloring up and spawning multiple times a day.
Yeah, so that's what like Gary Lang does for photo shoots is he'll turn the lights off and then turn them back on so he can enjoy that firing up. I mean, I don't think that it's necessarily harmful, but you know, there's a lot of research that's been done into photo period and vertebrate brains. And we are governed by photo periods. We're governed by blue light receptors. It's very evolutionarily conserved.
I believe I personally have transcended that, but
well, I think that I think that part of your ADHD actually is that you don't respond. You have some problems with your blue light receptors, right?
Oh, I got problems.
It wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't surprise me if that's part of it. And I'm more of a night owl. I've my whole life been more of a creature of the night. And I'm not getting up before 8 o'clock ever. Ever. It's never happening. And even if I wake up at 8 o'clock, which I do, I usually wake up at around 8:30, somewhere in there. I don't like leap out of bed.
Do you leap out of bed, Jodi? Like 4 a.m. comes around, you're like just chipper and ready to go?
Because my bladder says so.
Oh.
I just roll over and log in at 8 o'clock. Like if I have a meeting, I'll call into it. I don't know if I have some emails or I don't know. I start my day real soft. Let's put it that way.
Roll over and log in is the remote workers' way of life.
I'll be honest. I like a soft start too.
Yeah. I have had to, back when I was a professor, I would teach at 8 a.m. sometimes. And God, I hated that.
I don't blame you.
Well, because students are just zombies at 8 a.m. So they weren't very fun to teach. So I didn't like it either. It sucked.
Once upon a time, I used to be able to stay up.
Now you can't.
And still get up early. Now I can't. I don't even think I made the logos last Friday.
Yeah, I don't know. I know you weren't on the wheel. That's all I remember.
I know I didn't participate in logos. I woke up at midnight on the couch and went, well, time for bed.
I don't even make the end of Steven's stream all the time because I'm on Eastern time. So I try to go to bed at midnight. So I like to get a good 8 hours in, Yeah.
Kelly, you are forever the Center Ghost lady.
I sure am. They're looking real good too. Obviously they're rainbows, so they're going to be slow growing, but they look really good. They look really happy. So
how does CO2 work with a split light schedule like that?
Oh, with a split light schedule?
Mm-hmm.
Well, basically the purpose of it would be for CO2 to accumulate in the tank while the lights are out because plants are not using it when the lights are out. So it's, I guess in theory, it feels like it would be more useful in theory for a non-CO2 injected tank, just to let respiration take place, a CO2 to accumulate. And so there's like another boost of CO2. I don't think it's all that meaningful. And it just kind of adds a weird inconsistency to the whole like day night thing, like Kelly said.
I like to turn my CO2 on for bigger tanks. I like to turn it on an hour before the lights come on, just because it takes a long time for a big boat to get moving. And then I turn it off an hour before the lights turn on at the end because there's plenty of CO2 there. For small tanks, like my little 17-gallon, half hour is more than enough. I probably could just turn it on right at the photo period and it would be fine.
Okay.
So what size tank is that behind you again? Is it 200 something?
230.
230. Okay.
Yeah, you could turn it on. I would turn it on probably an hour and a half to 2 hours beforehand. Well, because you're using RO, you're not going to inject as much as we do, because I'm assuming your KH is going to be well, we have KH like 6 or 7.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. I mean, but you're going to use RO to reduce.
Yeah, I will. I'd like to get to the point where I cut it in half. You know, like half well water, half RO.
That would be pretty good.
If you think that would work.
I mean, that would put it in line with kind of what we're working with, roughly.
Yeah. I would turn it on I would turn it on at least an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours beforehand, just because it takes a long time for a tank that big to build up. And then you can turn it off an hour and a half to 2 hours before the end of your photo period, just because they won't need it.
So this question from Crazy for Seahorses, would it be better to CO2 or just crank the air on phytoplankton?
Okay, phytoplankton. Well,
are you trying to get rid of it or produce it?
I'm assuming produce it to feed their seahorses. I'm assuming. So
that makes sense.
Well, I mean, I've never grown phytoplankton before, and I'm assuming the two of you guys haven't either.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who would inject CO2 for phytoplankton. That's kind of an investment in a system. If you could do it, I guess. I think that the air for the phytoplankton, the big reason you would want it is for circulation. I think that circulation is probably pretty important in that. And so I would crank it up. But since I have never cultured that before, I can't really help you. And I would hate to lead you down the wrong path. I don't know if you know the people who do the Seahorse Whisperer live stream. It's on Wednesday nights. And if Zenny is here, she'll drop the link for it because they're her people. But you can
every week.
Yeah, you can ask them, and they are so knowledgeable and they're so helpful, and they'll help you out. But awesome to have a seahorse person in our stream.
Yeah. And one day we'll have another seahorse person in our stream.
Come on, Zenny. You can do it. I believe in you.
Never gets on the ball.
I believe in you, Zenny. I believe in you.
So would it be, in a sense, better than to only have the one photo period?
I think so.
Instead of a split.
You're using Chihiro's lights, right? Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can program a ramp up, and really, so what you want to do anyway when you're starting off this planted tank and injecting CO2, is you're going to start everything off kind of lowish light anyway, and adjust it upward incrementally. So you'll maybe decide what I've done as I decided on a photo period for my convenience, for my enjoyment, and then the intensity I adjusted from there. So you can adjust ramp up. You can decide, like, do I need 6 hours of max intensity, 8 hours of max intensity, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be months, like a period of months is how I do it.
Yeah. I do like 9 hours of max intensity just because I just it's simpler. I don't like a short ramp up, short ramp down. I just think people get sometimes a little too precious with their light schemes, and simpler is sometimes better. If I want to control my tank, like for algae or getting more growth, I just change the overall intensity of everything. Okay. You know, once I have a color spectrum I like the looks of, I just change everything within it. I'm not like, oh, I want more blue light or less blue light, or, oh, I want more, I don't do fancy things with photo period. I like to keep it simple. But then again, I also have simple viewing needs because I am always here.
Yeah. So, there's a lot you can do to adjust it. Like I honestly think that lighting should be to your aesthetics and to your habits, and then intensity can go up or down. But decide on how you like it to look and how long you want it to look that way.
Yeah. But no matter what you do, try to pick something that you can enjoy your tank. Don't have the lights come on when you're going to be asleep or gone all the time. That's no fun.
Yeah.
With all those people who are like, my lights come on at 8 and they go off at 8 and I enjoy my tank 1 hour a day. I'm like, what are you doing with your life? Like,
Yeah. And that's
Enjoy
why
it.
it is a split period right now, just because, you know, we're all home in the morning and we're usually all home in the evening unless somebody's got activities, but I'm not going to plan lights
Oh,
around activities in the evening. So,
I didn't realize it was currently a split period.
yeah.
I also would not. I wouldn't say absolutely get rid of that split period. Like if it's working
Yeah.
right now, if you add CO2 to what's currently working in that tank, it's just going to work better. Is
Yeah.
really
Okay.
all that's going to change.
And it
Okay.
suits your life. It suits your
Yeah.
life. You want to be able to enjoy that great big tank. You know, you want to enjoy your fish. You want to enjoy your plants. And
Yeah.
Steve, you know, I'm doing something that allows me to enjoy my tanks.
Mhm.
So
Right.
that's important. You know,
And I've
all that
got like the
effort
plant
and
farm
money.
in the fish room. It's utilitarian. It's not like something I go and sit and stare at. So I have it turns on full blast for like 9 hours, 10 hours, and then it's off. And
Okay.
just during the day, sort of
Yeah.
towards the evening time, it turns off.
Gotcha.
It's crazy that you have different tanks on different photo periods.
It is, and I don't really have a rhyme or reason for some of them. It's the ones that I look at the most. I dial in to like
Yeah.
my convenience, and then the ones that are just grow the shit out of some plants.
Yeah.
Is just whatever is convenient for the tank, and pretty much.
So now, and then I also get a lot of morning light from the windows that are in front of that tank, well, behind me, behind that tank.
Mhm.
And then there's also windows on the other side of the house. So there's always indirect light coming in. Does that play a part as well? I mean, aside from giving me a crap load of green spot algae.
You know, the
Yeah.
thing is it's indirect light. And let's face it,
Mhm.
it's probably not even enough to grow much more than houseplants. And then it's going to be filtered through glass and through water. And it's just not that much par. And that's why, like, years ago, you know, like we could never grow plants in the 80s because we didn't have good lights and we just couldn't get enough sunlight to grow them.
Mhm.
And like the Wallstad method, like originally it was using sunlight to grow your plants. Well, in houses, it's just not enough. So
Well, no, not anymore, especially with the low E glass.
Yeah, it is enough, however, for the brains of fish and their photo period. So they're still going to perceive it as daytime. Just like, you know, I'm in the house now, but I have my windows open. And this is enough for me to perceive, my brain to perceive this as daytime. So
or just
you're
imagine like the South American fish in the wild that are like in super black water and then spend most of their time like under 6 feet of leaf litter. Like a little bit of light's filtering down there, but not much.
It doesn't take, the thing is, it doesn't take much blue light to tell your brain it's daytime. That's why it's really important for you to maintain good sleep hygiene, to not, if you're having trouble sleeping, you shouldn't be looking at blue light devices in the middle of the night because that's enough to tell your brain, hey, I should wake up. So like if you wake up in the middle of the night, you shouldn't look at your phone.
Yeah, I turn my phone
I
on
sometimes do it.
blue light filter while I doom scroll
good.
into the wee hours of the night.
And that's not what any sleep researcher would tell you to do. But you know what? I do things I'm not supposed to do either. Your fish are not going to doom scroll. So
it's because we haven't given them devices yet.
Well,
it's coming.
I don't think a rainbow fish is smart enough even for TikTok.
It's called a high-tech tank.
But that's what, you know, but the blue light issue, a lot of fish lights come with that little blue moonlight.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's good for fish brains. You know, I haven't seen any research testing it, but I do know that fish have blue light receptors just like we do. And moonlight is not blue light. That's not what it looks like in nature. So you are giving your fish something that I don't think is good for them physiologically, and it doesn't really give you that much of a viewing experience. Like, let your fish fucking sleep. They're tired.
Yeah.
Let them sleep.
And I feel like the blue, I mean, it's just extra light at night and it's just more algae. So
Well, it's not
Right.
good for you either. Like if you
Yeah.
have a tank in your bedroom, it's not good for you to sleep either. So
yeah.
Mhm.
like Steven, his biggest tank is in his bedroom. If he had his blue light on all night, well, it's not
Well,
good for him or Jenna, you know. It's not good for anyone. Let your
no,
fish.
we just have the 50-inch TV blaring
It's not
South
good for
Park
your
while we
brain
try to sleep.
either. Jenna should wear an eye mask. She should wear an eye mask.
That
Filter
TV is for her. She's the one who got me
Oh,
hooked on now kind of needing the TV to fall asleep. So you can blame that
I
one
don't
on her.
even understand that.
But
I don't.
also
I don't either.
her
Any
ability
device
to
is not
sleep,
good.
her ability to sleep is like, I'm done being awake. Good night. And then
Yeah,
she's out.
that's kind of how I am. I just fall asleep. I read a little bit before I go to sleep, and like a book, not a, not doom scrolling, because I'm trying. It's just not good for your brain. So I read a book and that's it. But I fall
Yeah.
asleep pretty easily. No fan, no white noise, no TV, no garbage. Just sleep.
So CO2, what equipment have you acquired so far?
Yeah.
So I have a tank, a regular regulator of unknown brand because this came with the ADA tank that I picked up.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
So
interesting.
I did text the guy today and said, "Hey, do you remember what that was?" And he says, "No, sorry, I don't."
Huh.
So
Hmm.
unknown, unless
So
you're really good at deciphering what it is by sight.
I
Do
would,
you have it nearby?
I would
Yeah.
test before you put it with fish you
Yeah.
care about. I
They
would
all
That
put
was
kind
it
the
of look.
plan.
no.
They all kind of look the same, like Mickey Mouse.
They
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
1 second. Whoops, did
Bob,
it again. Hold
are you a
on.
daddy? Bob Steenfot said, "Love you
Yeah.
all. Hope everyone is doing well. I hope
Oh, hi, Bob.
you and Chelsea and the baby are doing well too. Haven't
Son of a
heard any
beehive.
news.
I know you guys were sick. I hope you're feeling better.
Well, they were sick last week, and they were supposed to
Yeah.
have a baby on Saturday. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Can you imagine? Well, you especially can't imagine, Steven, but being 9 months pregnant and being sick. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
that sucks.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here, trying to come back.
okay.
We lost Jody's face.
Damn it.
We hear you.
There we go.
Okay, so there's your regulator.
Looks like
Yep.
Mickey Mouse, or like
Yep.
a dude wearing a gas mask.
That
It's
too.
Or,
really
That too.
hard to say what the brand is.
It's got a brass colored
Let me put it up in the light real
Yeah.
quick.
table counter.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
nobody
kind of,
judge my table. We live in our house.
you know what? So
Uh,
yeah, my table is also a mess. Okay,
Bob
no
said
baby yet.
had to delay because they were sick. Yeah, I wondered about that. Like you're spiking at fever. Are you gonna go in and get a C-section? I'm like,
Man.
So
Well, best of luck to you guys. I hope you're feeling better, and we can't wait to hear about the baby.
Oh, shnikes.
Yeah,
doing the stupid new thing.
it's very hard to say what brand that is. I would put it either put it on a tank that doesn't have inhabitants that you don't care about it, or put it on a
Okay.
bucket
yeah,
Okay.
and just let it run for a few days and observe it. And like if it's really easy to dial in, I would trust it. If it's hard to dial in, I don't know how I'd feel about it, especially if
Okay.
you have a lot of expensive fish you really care about.
Right.
I know a lot of people like to use cheap regulators, but boy, I don't trust them. A used regulator is fine though, as long as it's one that's trustworthy. Oh, hi, meow meow. We're so pretty. Can I?
Well, somebody got attention, so the other one needs attention.
Oh, hi, dog.
So Daniel Ingalls says paying for YouTube to take out the commercials is the best money you can spend. The same
Yeah.
3 commercials in the middle of a 20-minute Pink Floyd balance gets old quick. Ugh. I assume, because I have never heard anyone or seen anyone complain about ads on this stream, and I deliberately turn all of that shit off to make sure there's none. So hopefully people who don't have premium have never seen an ad in the middle of the stream.
I've had premium for quite a while.
Yeah,
I get not wanting to spend money on it. Money is tight for people, and I get that.
Mhm.
However, I would totally drop Netflix before I would drop YouTube Premium. Like,
Yeah.
of the subscription services I have,
Yeah.
I think that's the one I would drop last, because I don't think I would watch, and I would never watch any YouTube if not for YouTube Premium. I hate commercials. I hate it.
I got premium after I ended up with over 7 ads on Dan's stream that one night. So I'm not doing that again.
It's so bad, and everybody blames Dan, but it's
No,
not.
but it's happening to everyone.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
his
unless you go in and make sure it is all shut. See, like I even have like the beginning of the stream ad shut off, but Jack just said only an ad to come into the stream, which that's YouTube doing the YouTube thing.
Yeah, and I feel like the bigger your channel is and the more viewers, the more ads YouTube puts in there, whether you want it or not.
So Karan's looking at getting GLA equipment,
Yeah.
and the price
It's expensive.
is upsetting for
Mhm.
sure.
It is, and I have GLA, and I'll say it's a one-time purchase.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look at it that way. It's a one-time purchase for peace of mind. A good regulator, you could at least get a decade out of it, at least a decade, if not more. And you
Right.
can run more than one tank off of it. I'm driving 2 tanks with one regulator. I mean, there's some logistics issues. You know, you can't really drive something that's on like 50 feet apart, right? With one regulator.
Right.
But it is expensive. It is expensive.
And where did you get your GLA?
I got it from GLA. I ordered it.
It's Greenleaf
from
Aquariums.
Greenleaf Aquariums. And Orlando, the man who owns it, he gives really good customer service. And if you just email him and you tell him what you have, he will help you get everything you need.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
It's quite
I'm
easy.
curious though how that unknown regulator works for
Yeah.
you. It's going to take a
I
while
am
for you to
too.
really figure out if it's good though, because like what you want to do is exhaust that entire tank. Because what bad regulators tend to do is when that inlet pressure in the tank gets too low, the working pressure tries to compensate way too hard, and instead of like regulating the pressure, it just skyrockets it and just dumps the rest of the CO2.
Yeah, and I've had this.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've had that happen before. So my first regulator was a Milwaukee. I bought it used. I had no money at the time. I was a grad student. I was poor. And I lost every single one of my fish in 2 tanks, including the most beautiful Melanitania, the dwarf neon rainbows. The most beautiful ones. So good. I can't find any that good since then. Lost all of them, all my shrimp, every single fish. Quit the hobby for a few years because I just was so demoralized, and I had no money to get more fish. And really, really sad. And I would hate for anyone to do that. It's better to use no CO2 than a cheap regulator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you want the Cadillac of regulators, you go with the custom regulators. Tommy said he's got those custom regulators. Got 3. Sent one to a fish tuber already.
Yeah,
they can get really fancy with those.
And if I had known people who were building custom regulators, I would have bought one back when I set this up, because they're even better. And the peace of mind is totally worth it. It's totally worth it because it's a one-time expense. And if you think about all the money you've already spent setting up that big tank and buying all the fish and all the plants and the decor, all of it, it's worth it.
Yeah, I had 0 plans to use this in the big tank right away.
Yeah.
So that's a 20-pound cylinder you've got?
Yeah.
Nice. That's nice.
How easy is it to go and get it filled when it runs out?
We've got a place called Air Gas here where I can go get my O2 tank filled and the CO2, I believe. And if not, we've got an AOX welding supply.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm just thinking it's about 3 months on my 5-pound on a 40-gallon tank. So just like doing the math there, probably end up being kind of close to that on
Yeah.
a 200-gallon tank with a 20-pound.
Yeah.
Would it be worth it just to have a spare on hand?
Yes.
I now
I
have
do.
a spare. I
I
switched
do.
from a 5-pound to a
Write that
10-pound
down.
and have a 5-pound spare now. It
Mhm.
definitely
And
helpful.
I switched from a 5-pound to a 10-pound spare, but 10-pound, but I still have a 10-pound spare because
Okay.
my CO2 place is only open Monday through Fridays. So, and Jake he's hooks up my CO2 for me on weekends. I don't see him during the
Mhm.
week. So that's why I have a spare so I can fill it during the week and then he can set it up.
Gotcha.
So,
And now,
I think
is it also go to a fire department and do it? Was I hear that before?
like a
Yeah.
fire extinguisher store.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
where
okay.
I take mine. Now it used to be $1 a pound to get them filled, and now it's $2 a pound. But still, the 5-pound one is still I think they charge me for a 10-pound or something. I don't know. It's more, but it's still like not that bad considering
Okay.
how
The
much freaking
price,
CO2 I have.
Yeah.
the price is it's radically different even within your own city,
Mhm.
depending where you go. So
It's
sometimes
mostly labor, really, is what they're
tough.
charging for.
Right. And I pay more than Steven does, but it's not that much more. It's not that expensive.
Okay.
And it's so easy for me. It's 2 blocks from my house. If I could
Right.
carry my cylinder, I would just walk over there.
Hey,
It's
buddy.
very convenient for me. And I like the people who do it.
Nathan,
Gotcha.
I cannot imagine Jody having to mix citric acid and baking soda for a 200-gallon tank.
You can buy, I used to make bath bombs, and you can buy citric acid like 50 pounds at a time. And you can buy at Costco, they have those huge bags of baking soda that are really cheap. But still,
So I did the calculations on one medium-ish size pressurized DIY thing where you have to add, I think it was 900 grams of each thing. And like I was calculating the yield on that, and it's approximately, if the reaction is full complete, like you get 100% yield from it, it's about a pound of CO2 versus you get a 5-pound pressurized container where they fill it to like 3.5 to 4 pounds just for safety's sake.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Pressurized CO2 ultimately is the way to go. The worst way to go is the yeast fermenter.
Yeah.
That's
No
the
thanks.
worst way to go. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. So
So
but
this one also has like I think the inline diffuser that hooks
I
up to
really
the spray bar.
yeah, I really like the inline diffusers. I have one made by G. There are ones that are like fancy glass ones. I'm
Mm-hmm.
never gonna get a fancy glass one. I would just break it, and it's in my stand anyways. I can't see it.
you
But
paint
they
clean.
work the same. They work.
Now,
the
aren't you going to
same.
get a reactor, or are you going to have Mike build you a reactor, right?
Well, if we can ever get together.
That Mike is never home.
He is never home, and when he's home, I'm sick.
Oh God.
we were gonna get together last week, and it just didn't work out.
Oh,
Pretty sure he decided he didn't. It was a rough week.
Oh,
That's okay.
Reactors are good for big tanks. I don't know. I guess if I had a tank as the size of yours, I would probably just do 2 outlets,
Mm-hmm.
and I would plumb it into both because you probably would need 2 spray bars anyways for a tank that big. And I would
Yeah.
probably plumb one into each, even if they were coming from the same CO2 reactor, which they probably would. I would plumb CO2 in each because I really like the misting. I like to see the bubbles, but that's a Kelly thing. Not everyone agrees with that. People don't like the bubbles.
Yeah, I'm okay with them. Like, and I don't hate them enough to go start building reactors for every single tank I have. I like the inline diffusers.
The worst option for a big tank, though, is the in-tank diffuser. I don't like those at all. They require so much maintenance because they get scummed up with algae, and then you have to clean them and switch them out, and they're also just not enough diffusion for a big
Well,
tank.
I got them in nano tanks. They're fine.
Yeah, I don't like them even for nano tanks. They're just because they're work. These inline
Right.
ones, they're no work at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. So I thought I had another 850 Oase that came with that tank, but then we got it home and I put it next to the other one and went, oh, Nikes, it's a 650 or a 600.
That's okay.
But it's still a 600, so.
You
Yeah.
can still use both of them. I mean, it'll still give you more movement, you know, and it might be enough. Like, just test it and see how you feel. Like, as long as you're getting rippling across the whole top of the tank, it's probably,
it gets about halfway right now. And I was working on cleaning out that other filter today. And I need to get some new parts for it. Just the tubing is icky.
You can also supplement with some power heads, like, because that's a cheap way to add some circulation and some movement. And
I do that in the plant farm too, because I just have a AquaClear 70 on the side of the plant farm, and on the other side I got the power head, and it's attached to a sponge filter. It works pretty well.
Yeah, and if you don't want to have the sponge filter, you don't have to. But a power head, you know, it just gives you a little more movement. It's good for, like, if you have a big tank that has some dead spots in it because of your hardscape, can really help.
So have you heard anything about the UNS line of regulators? I've never used them. I've heard mixed things about them.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust them right now. I wouldn't trust them. The only brands right now I would trust a home built one, GLA, CO2 Art, or SR Aquaristic.
Yep.
Are the only brands
That's the ones we have experience with.
And I haven't heard any bad things about any of those.
And then there's F-Zone, which
God, that's
I wouldn't don't do that in your prize tank there.
Yeah, well, Milwaukee, boy, there's another bad one. Don't get a Milwaukee. Don't do it.
So I don't have gobies or gudgeons and have never kept them. I know you've got some gobies.
I have gobies. I have a lot of the Stiphodon gobies, and I really love them. I have a couple different species, and they're cute little guys. They are very easy. They like to live in happy little groups. The only thing you need to know for keeping them, for anyone out there who's never had them, is you want them to go in a very mature tank, like at least 6 months old, because they graze on the Aufwuchs, which is the biofilm of algae and bacteria, and they'll starve to death if they don't have that. There's no shortcut to getting that in your tank but time. So, but otherwise, they're super cute. I recommend them to anyone. You could even have them in a really little tank, like a 5-gallon or 10-gallon tank, because they're tiny little critters. So, but I've never kept any gudgeons. If Geek Boy is in the chat, he breeds peacock gudgeons, and he's a good person to ask about that.
Then Night Owl, thank you, Drew. Well, gifted 5 memberships. Much appreciated. And those went to Don G, Ty Miller, D-Rock 4130, Kurt Bredding, and Julian Fishette.
Nice. Awesome. Some new names in that. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Jeff Pelham says he wants peacock gudgeons. Well, Geek Boy does breed them, but I don't know what he's going to do with them. He might just take them all to Dan to sell. I don't know. But they're cool fish. They're really pretty. They're very pretty fish.
Let's see. In terms of adding flow, Nathan's asking, would a wave maker to that tank help over adding a second HOB? It was a tank that he's having like some staghorn algae, and he's got maybe a slightly underpowered filter. I mean, any kind of additional flow. I think is the important thing there.
The wave makers, they're kind of more of a saltwater thing, aren't they? They're because they pulse.
Some people call wave makers power heads and vice versa. But my understanding is that a wave maker is a very specific thing.
I would just get a power head. A power head is cheap too. And like the co-op sells them, other people sell them. Just a cheap power head. I would try that.
Just bonk your head.
Because while you want quite a
The
bit
dog
of
or the cat?
flow, you don't
Dog.
want like dog. You don't want saltwater levels of flow. Like they want like like the flow of crashing waves. It's dog.
This is the one that just hit his head. Oh, thank you.
Oh, dog.
That's so sweet.
Hears voices, so he's got to come crash the stream.
Well, that's okay. We don't
That's
mind.
what pets do.
So someone, Alec Komanoff, asked about ADA regulators. I haven't tried them. I've never heard anything bad about them. I would hope for their price point, they're high quality. I know their other stuff is very high quality. I guess I'd be willing to give it a shot. They're kind of hard to find a place to buy them, aren't they? I don't know. Maybe you can order them directly from ADA. I don't have any direct experience with it. I've never heard anything bad, though.
Or find them secondhand, even.
This is true. Yeah, I guess if you found one secondhand, like at a club auction, I think I'd be willing to give it a shot. All right.
Zen says, if I'm having issues with my bubbles not staying consistent throughout the day, but the pressure appears good, could I maybe just have a crap diffuser? When I replace them, it's great, but then within a few weeks, it starts acting up again. Well, that's kind of what they do. It's what Kelly was talking about.
What bad regulators do. Good regulators don't do that. Now you can have your diffuser clog up.
She's talking the bubbles coming out of not the bubble count.
Oh, out of the diffuser.
The bubbles. It's diffusers clogging up over time. It's just what they do.
Yeah. So
remember, we bought her that regulator. It's a good regulator.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. She's a CO2. Inline diffusers, in my experience, never need any maintenance. So I actually, I did take them in here after like 3 years because.
But you got to have a canister filter. So we're
right. The only reason I took it out is I was doing some plumbing anyways, and I'm like, well, I might as well just clean this while it's at it. It was clean as a whistle. Clean as a whistle. Never needed any maintenance. But yeah, you need a canister. I know that Myrtle, what he would do is like he had a regular maintenance routine with his in-tank diffusers. I think he would clean them like every 2 weeks. And people do them different ways, but you can soak them in hydrogen peroxide or bleach and then dechlorinator. Either one works. But it's nice to own 2 of them. One of them you could be soaking and cleaning, and the other one you could just switch out right away. But they really scum up every single month. And even if you have no algae in your tank, they still scum up.
Yeah, I get the ones with a replaceable disc, and I have them soaking in liquid, and just rotate them out just to kind of streamline that.
It's just part of owning them. They scum up, and that's why I don't like them. If I have the choice of using an inline diffuser, I pick it every time because they're maintenance free.
Yeah, Zen's fed up with it. She's gonna get a canister.
Yeah, I get you. It's a pain in the ass. I don't like it either.
Yeah. Let's see.
Are there any other parts pieces that I need aside from the CO2 tank, regulator, diffuser, or reactor, whichever way it goes? Is there any other stuff that needs to go inside the tank?
Do you have CO2 proof tubing?
I'll have to go buy some.
Yeah, you can't use regular. Well, I mean, maybe you could use.
You can for a time. It gets really brittle and cracks.
Yeah, but CO2 proof tubing is really cheap.
Yeah.
For some reason, I have like a 50-foot roll of it. Why I have so much? But I bought it from GLA, and they let you pick the colors, so I picked the teal. It's really
nice.
pretty. Yeah.
So what? You didn't mention a drop checker. Do we want to talk
about that?
That
was my next question.
Yeah.
So I think, especially for a beginner, it's worth having. So you mentioned that you're going to use RO. You're going to cut your water. You're going to cut it in half with the RO, right? So you're going to.
It'll get you what, KH 9 or because your KH is 18 right now, right?
It's 15.
15.
Okay, cutting it in half is about what we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good target. A drop checker is fine in that range. And
Okay.
I do think a drop checker, especially with a tank that big, you want to put it opposite of where your CO2 is coming out, because you want to see, if the CO2 has made it all the way to all parts of
Right.
it.
And this is, I think the drop checkers are really good for beginners, because at a glance, you can see how effective your CO2 diffusion is. Like, it's not going to tell you definitively how much dissolved CO2 you have, but it's going to tell you how far out of the ballpark you are of even getting close to like a meaningful amount of dissolved CO2, or like if you're going a little bit overboard, or if your CO2 cylinder ran out and you don't look at it all the time, like me. I noticed a blue drop checker and like, oh, I should probably look at that.
Yeah, and I don't use a drop checker, but I'm misting CO2, so I can see when the bubbles stop and mine's empty. But a drop checker is a good place to start, and they're cheap. They're what, like $10, something like that.
Yeah.
Good to have one. Good to buy a backup too, because if you break it, they're made of glass. Like,
Right.
you can drop it. So.
Yeah. But the drop checker is essentially just it's some regular pH reagent, whatever the blue indicator fluid is called, and it's really just to show you how much of a pH drop you're getting from your CO2. And I can pull up this CO2 pH like KH chart just to kind of give you a rough idea of what most people, when they're going like that full bore optimized CO2 level, what they tend to want to do.
Yeah.
It's not required.
I mean, if your water is within, let's say, KH of 3 to 10, the drop checker is close enough.
Right.
If you have water that's like KH 15, the drop checker is not accurate to your life. If you have water that's KH 1, it's also not accurate.
Yeah. So yeah, I pulled in just the numbers that are relevant to like your current KH, and also like what it'll be when you dilute, and what Kelly and I are working with. So this is keeping in mind when you measure your pH, there's not a surefire way to get a super accurate reading. I get a little obsessive, and I have multiple meters, and I also use a pH strip, and everything is within that like 0.1 to 0.2 accuracy, which for aquarium purposes is more than good enough. So keeping that in mind, if your KH is at 15, you can see that you're going to be looking for a pH of around 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, that ballpark area. And which, when you're used to like 8 point something pH, can seem kind of scary, especially as it fluctuates, like it goes down during the day, goes up at night. And a lot of people get scared of that, which is another reason why people start CO2 really, 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 really low, and then never really get to that next step of cranking it up, because pH swings are scary to them. CO2 overdose, which, it is scary. It will kill your fish. The pH swing will not so much, though.
You want your pH to decrease by a full point.
At least.
Yeah.
That can be, I like just kind of looking at the target pH, just because like my pH doesn't go back up to that full point at night. So yeah, you're looking at that. But if you're going to dilute, then it's going to be more like
close to what we have.
Yeah, this is kind of what I'm doing, 6.8. Got one of them where I'm pushing like 6.7-ish, but you don't have to.
And if you don't feel like measuring any of this, you don't have to. You can just use the drop checker when you're a beginner. And this is what I do. I don't use a drop checker, and I measure nothing. I'm a scientist. I never measure anything in these tanks because 1, it's a waste of my time. 2, these instruments all suck. And 3, I just watch my fish.
Yep.
And if your fish are twitchy, if they're gasping at the surface, I know what my fish look like. I know their behavior. I understand them. And I know what it looks like when I push my CO2 too high. And I know the level that I need to bring it up to make it effective. And so I don't have to measure anything.
Yeah. And a beginner may not be in
Drop
that same
checker is all you
position.
need.
A beginner would probably
Mhm.
would best understand this relationship here and know what kind of certain people target, and so they can not exceed that or like shoot for something in that ballpark. But
Yeah.
also, I think the most important thing is whatever you settle on within this ballpark here, don't change it whenever you're like when you're seeing plants do well and your fish are doing fine, everything seems to be going great. Don't adjust it, because
I don't know. For beginners, I wouldn't even tell them to bother with it. I would tell them to just get a drop checker. If your water is between KHs of 3 and 10, just use a drop checker and look for it to change so it starts as blue and then it changes into emerald green. You want it to change to like lime green or yellow green while watching your fish, and that's good enough. And
Yeah.
then you just need
Now,
to
what I'm
observe
talking about,
what you have.
consistency, you don't agree with that? Keeping your
Consistency in
CO2
your
consistent?
CO2. Well, your
Yeah.
CO2 should be consistent just because if your regulator doesn't suck,
Well,
it
there are
should
some people
hold all
like,
day.
again, this is from me, like going through the forums of actual beginners who are trying this out. They do a lot of crazy things out of fear and out of like ignorance of how this works.
I would just
And
never
explaining,
change it. Once you have your
right.
CO2 dialed in, you don't need to change it. And if your regulator is not a piece of crap, it will not change.
And I think what
Every day it will be
beginners struggle with is, what does
until
it
it's
mean when it's dialed in? And I think they change it so much because they're changing it so constantly that they never really understand what it means to be dialed in
I
with
think
the CO2.
I think they're dealing with shitty regulators is the issue.
It's
Because if you have
their physical change. Like I don't, regardless of the regulator, I was kind of the same way. I would fiddle with it all the time because I wasn't sure, is it too much, too little? I don't know.
No, I set it and forget it. I don't do anything. You don't need to do anything. Once it's dialed in, you don't need to touch it. And you're making your life hard if you're just doing your hobby on hard mode if you're changing it all the time. I mean, get that drop checker to the point where it goes down to the color it's supposed to, and then you don't need to do a thing until it empties, and then you have to set it up again. And you do that every cycle. You have, when the tank empties, you go fill it back up and you have to set it up again. But you don't have to change anything. And I do think that like people who like they start measuring their pH every day and their KH every day and they freak out, then they start changing their CO2 every day. That's where the problem is. Like,
well, I
you
think what
really
is
don't
worse
need to change anything.
is the people who are changing their CO2 every day, the beginners I'm interacting with, are not measuring anything. They just
The drop checker
find these
really does measure it for
correlations.
you.
Yeah, well,
The drop
they're
checker
not
is,
using the drop checker properly either. That's the issue too.
yeah.
Like there's a lot of things, there's a lot of nuances that go into this, where if you tell a beginner just do this and watch your fish, they don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, so
I just don't think that people are capable of measuring their pH accurately with the equipment that is available.
No, you have
Because
to measure it relative.
pH meters all suck.
They do.
Even I used to use a $10,000 pH meter and it wasn't that accurate. You can't tell me that a $20 Amazon pH meter. And the thing is people use them and they read them like they're gospel. And they're not. They suck. Like pH paper, like the strips, those are a little better, but you're doing colorimetric assays with your eyes.
Yeah,
and
litmus paper is like, how are you gonna like look at that gradient and be like, oh, that's exactly 7.1.
Right. I mean, that's why you start chasing parameters and chasing pH and chasing ideals. you're giving your fish and your plants an inconstant environment, and that's a bigger problem. It's a bigger problem. So yeah, I mean, while I think that intellectually the pH table and measuring your pH and all that, looking for the 1 point or 1.5 point drop is good, in practice, I don't really think it's good advice for people because they're not capable of measuring their pH.
It helped me a lot just because it helped me stop messing with it once I understood the relationship, and also understand that those things are not accurate, and then sort of get a sense of like, this is what happens when my water evaporates and my spray bar starts agitating the surface a little bit more than it did before. There's just little nuances to discover there, but there's you can also do CO2 kind of like make sure your drop checker is a certain color, and then look at your bubble count and try to keep that consistent. Whenever
you don't have to
change it
try anything with a good regulator.
Right.
It will not change. It will
You have
not
to try
change.
to resist the urge to change it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it will not change.
People's brains work a little bit differently.
I don't even look at it until, once I no longer see bubbles coming out, then I'm like, oh, well, yeah, it's time to put a new bottle on. But with a good regulator, set it and forget it. It's set it and forget it.
Yeah.
I mean, that first afternoon, okay, I gotta look at it. But after that, I don't want to think about it at all. The solenoid turns it on. It comes to exactly where it's supposed to be. The solenoid turns it off. This is not like, it doesn't require any brain power. And if you have a regulator that's not holding and you have to fuss with every day, which I have gone down that road, it's because your regulator sucks and you will kill your fish.
Yeah, and that's
you will kill your fish. Because
there's two things I think that make people quit CO2, and one of them is killing your fish from a bad regulator. The other one is if they are messing with it too much, or if their regulator is bad and it's changing it for them too much, they're going to get algae problems, and they're going to get more problems than they had before they started injecting CO2, and so that can make people quit too.
You bypass all these problems by buying a good regulator.
Yeah.
And I know it's expensive and I know it sucks, but it's a one-time purchase. And there are kind of two things in this planted tank hobby you need to spend money on. Filters or canister filters, don't get a cheap one, and regulators. You can have cheap substrate, that's fine. If you want low-tech lighting, or cheaper lights, doesn't matter. It's fine. If you want to use a hang on the back filter, doesn't matter. It's fine. It gets the job done. If you want to use sponge filters, doesn't matter. It's fine.
If water flows through it and it holds bacteria,
it's fine.
It's a filter.
It's fine. But don't cheap out on your regulator. I mean, anyone out there who's thinking of getting CO2, do not cheap out on your regulator. I mean, take it from someone who's had their heart broken. I've seen other people have their hearts broken, and they'll say, but, I know so-and-so has an F zone and it's working fine. I mean, it takes me 2 or 3 hours to get it set up, but then it's okay. That's not fine. That's not fine. That's not the way. Life shouldn't be hard. It takes me 10 minutes to set this up, and I don't got to think about it no more for 4 months or 5 months or however long it takes for it to run out. It's just not worth the heartache. You think of the thousands of dollars you spend.
Daniel Ingalls said, does everyone here use CO2? I would wager that most people don't.
I would know. I think 20% of people in chat maybe use it.
Yeah, so most people don't.
Yeah. But I think that a lot of people are interested,
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're afraid
it used to be
of CO2.
When we first started talking about CO2, when we first started this stream, it would actually make people upset, visibly upset in the chat, because they would call it CO2 is cheating, and it's just a misunderstanding of how carbon works. But I think a lot of people are coming around to the idea of just the plant physiology and the fact that injecting CO2 can actually replicate nature, which I know is a very strange thing to say, but it's true.
Well, I mean, in nature, if you look at habitats where lots of plants grow, they naturally have a lot of CO2 dissolved in the water column. So if you look at the Pantanal, which is I've seen pictures of it. I'm sure that Chris Lukaup has videos of it. And I'm sure it's beautiful. It naturally has like 20 or 30 ppm of dissolved CO2 in the water column. And to get that in your tank, you kind of got to inject it. There's really no other good way to do it.
Yep.
So
and then of course the hard water rivers too as well. Like they'll have the pressurized like a lot of carbonic acid in the
so when I lived in Madison, Wisconsin, Madison is over limestone aquifer. It's the driftless zone, and there is a Lake Wingra, which is one of the smallest lake in Madison. There's like 4 lakes in Madison, and there's this by the shore. There's this huge patch of watercress growing, and you can see this little spring bubbling out of the earth into the lake, and you can see bubbles of gas coming out of it. And where that comes from is dissolved organic acids from decaying plant matter and mud and bacteria and all that. They leach into the cracks in the spring, and they combine with the limestone, and that produces CO2 gas that bubbles out. And that's why you see that bloom of watercress that's there. So for us to mimic something like that in a tank, you have to inject it somehow.
Yeah, you can't just naturally set that up in a closed system. I mean, you can sort of approximate it, but like the CO2 will always be super limiting.
Yeah. And if you have very, very low pH water, you can get away with a lot more. The CO2 is more bioavailable.
So Nathan wants to know, how quickly should the drop checker get to that beautiful green? Is it by the end of the cycle, middle, etc.?
After an hour. Like that's why.
So I have noticed certain drop checkers are a little bit weirder. I think there's like a 2 to 3 hour window. Some of them change more slowly. I don't know if it's the design or what, or maybe it's the fluid, but I've seen weird, inconsistent results.
I mean, there are ones that have like more. So the problem with, there's different designs of drop checkers, and there are ones that are separated by a membrane, and you can make those, and then it's like immediate contact between the dye and your water. Whereas the ones that are like a little glass, like tube with a bubble, what has to happen is the water, your tank water comes into contact with the airspace there, and then the partial pressure of the CO2 in that airspace and the partial pressure of the CO2 in your water must come to equilibrium, and then that CO2 affects the dye, right? So there's a gap there. But I mean, mine usually turn after a couple hours because I turn my CO2 on like an hour ahead of time, and that really helps. So, but I also don't use them anymore either because I watch my fish.
So Ryan wants to know, Jodi, what are your thoughts on keeping CO2 in tanks? What's your style of keeping?
Well, the goal is to have CO2 in this tank. At least start there. Maybe add it to another one up here. And as far as style of keeping, if it makes my eyeballs happy, I'll put it in there.
I like that. And that's a beautiful aquascape. You did a really nice job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really good. It's going to look
I don't sit in front of it.
Full of plants.
Yeah, I like the viewable.
If I go too much, though, the lights will be really bright. And it's snowing outside right now, so the lights, the outside makes it look really bright, too.
Well, I'm sure Ryan's going to want to know what fish you have in there. Ryan breeds lots of fish.
I have turquoise rainbows.
Nice.
I have some gold dust mollies, some Congo tetras, some cherry barbs. Hey, buddy. I have a pair of apistogramma agzezii.
Nice.
I have orange Venezuelan corridoras, and I have the albino longfin Aeneas. And
Nice.
Kelly, don't hate me, but I have luminatus and forktails in there for caddis. And
Well,
everybody gets food.
They have more
Exactly.
space to hide and they have
Yeah.
more niches to occupy that can help. It's just something to look out for to make sure they actually are eating and that they're not cowering in the back of the tank.
Oh yeah, they get right in there.
That's good.
They're pretty ballsy.
Helps. The bigger tank really helps because they have their own niches.
They actually school a lot with the Kubutai rasboras too, oddly enough.
They're little. Yeah, they're little.
Yeah. And then there's blue Kochu tetras. I have a couple reticulated hill streams in there.
Nice.
And I'm gonna steal some of my other ones from the basement and bring them up. And then I also there are 3 blue phantom plecos that I do see daily. They're not even alleged.
Wow.
I've got 12 coolie loaches, 9 of which are black, and the other 3 are reticulated.
Nice.
Also not alleged.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
And then I've got 4 vampire shrimp. And I did finally find all 4. So I was really excited about that. And there's a myriad of gold Amano shrimp in there too.
Nice.
I know it is. It's a big community. So I put 50 blue dream shrimp in there, saw them for 5 minutes, haven't seen them since. That was like a month ago.
They're still there though. They just they know better than to enter the water column. Occasionally the ones in my 90 will go into the water column and you'll see the barbs and the rainbows just go and go right.
Yeah. The rainbow, one of the turquoise ate my favorite one.
Well, they do that.
Yeah.
Rainbows are hungry.
Thanks, Vibes, for the super chat. Said, who's the amazing guest?
Oh, it's Jodi P. It's Jodi P. Yay!
That day I saw it, I couldn't figure out what the heck was wrong with the rainbow. I'm like, what do you have in your mouth? So I dropped some food in the tank. He spit the shrimp out, went for the food, and I'm like, oh, you jerk, ate half of him. And then the Corys finished it off. I didn't even have to take it out.
Damn.
They do that, but the nice thing is those blue dreams breed so fast that
they do.
Especially as your plants grow in, you'll get a good population going. Don't worry. Right. Zenny says mine used to change after 2 hours, and this isn't a 40 breeder, but it's pretty consistently 4 hours now. So is that bad, or just less CO2, or is it because of my water sucks?
When's the last time you changed that drop checker fluid out? Because it
you
does,
do need to change it every
bad.
now and again. It just loses its changeability, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean.
Also, some of the drop checker fluid is not as good as others, I've noticed.
That's probably true. I haven't used it in a while, but it does go bad. Even the bottle that you buy, you should just buy more. I would say buying a new bottle once a year is probably a good idea. I mean, I know from lab reagents, I wouldn't trust something like that was more than a year old. Especially kept below it's kept at room temperature. Just buy a bottle of it every year. It's cheap. So
why do fish hit their eye on decorations? And is it a sickness? Well,
if it's rainbows, it's stupidity. They're not that smart.
Stupidity can be a sickness, indeed. Yeah, I think if there's sharp things and fish get startled for whatever reason, especially rainbows, they get into a frenzy or something bumps the tank and they freak out a little bit. That's why you don't want to put like super pointy things or like crevices they can get stuck in because they don't really think. Sticks. Yeah. Those aren't as pointy. Those aren't super pointy. I've seen pointier.
There's some that are worse. Yeah. I mean,
there's some pointy ones in there, but
it's just something to look out for. I mean, if you're noticing like a lot of injuries on your rainbows,
no, I'm not. Since I moved them out of quarantine from the
Took 'em-
40-gallon downstairs and brought them up
They're
here.
still
I have
pretty
not seen
small.
anything on them. Yeah.
They're still pretty small. As they get bigger, if you notice them getting injured, you can always make changes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to aquascape with wood because of with branchy wood because of rainbows.
Mm-hmm.
But just keep an eye on them. Just keep
The
an eye on 'em.
solution should be we should all get 10-foot long river tanks. And then
There you
they'd
go.
be fine, right?
There you go. I mean,
That'd be
rainbows
pretty
would.
awesome.
They would love it. They would love it. Rainbows commonly, especially when you buy them, like you order them from Dan's Fish or from a breeder, they get like little white spots on their lips, and that's
Oh,
Mhm.
not a disease. That's just from
No.
bumping into it. And like, so rainbows have teeth, and like they can lose a tooth, and it just grows back. It's not like our teeth, right? They grow back daily. I don't know about daily, but like
they're tiny.
weekly.
Tiny.
Yeah, they're
Right.
tiny little teeth, and that's all that is. And
Okay.
so if you see a white spot on the lip of your rainbow, or like a barb too, because they're zippy also, and
Yeah.
they're okay. But
That
yeah.
first week I had them, I freaked out for that reason, and then watched 3 of them hit the glass and went, "Oh, okay."
Oh, right, yeah. The other
it's just
thing
what
is
they
when
do.
you're planning your tank, and this is something you can't do because you view your tank on both sides, a background really helps.
Mm-hmm.
Because they see their reflection and they're not smart and they get confused and they can run into it. But you
Okay.
view your tank from both sides. So
Yeah.
that's that. But for
Yeah.
people who are at home who are viewing their tanks from just one side, painting your background black
Mm-hmm.
does make a difference in cutting down on some of that. And I know I've heard of breeders, they also paint their sides black too, which I have
Mm-hmm.
not done. But that's not an option for you because you view your
Nope.
fish
Yeah.
on
Actually,
all
I can see that aside from like 6 inches right now, I can see all the way around it.
Yeah. It's
That's
just
a cool setup, though. Being able
it
to see
is
all sides of
cool.
it.
And you can
Yeah.
really enjoy it's hard to escape.
Yeah.
It's hard to escape a tank like that.
It
Much
was challenging. I played with sticks for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and as the plants grow in, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard because you effectively have 2 foregrounds. Otherwise
Yeah.
you'll overgrow part of your viewing area. So it is a really big challenge to escape with plants. But it's so
It is.
pretty. It's so enjoyable
But I
for your
like it.
family. Yeah.
It is.
Just keep an eye on those rainbows as they get older. If you see
Okay.
them really running into the sticks, especially, as they get really big.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
They've been
Yeah.
pretty good in here. It's unfortunately it's 2 foot,
Yeah.
front to back. So they've got quite a bit of room. And
Yeah.
they don't generally weave
Yeah.
in and out of the wood. They do
They're
go
still
through
really little.
this open area at the bottom,
Yeah.
but other than that, they don't really weave in and out of the wood.
Yeah,
too
they're not
much.
much on navigating. They're just more of like open space, go. All right, where we hit the wall,
Full
let's turn
send.
around, go back the other
Yeah.
way.
That's why
Never learn from our mistakes.
That's why we always kind of recommend, especially with bigger rainbows, like a 4-foot tank is kind of
Yeah.
the minimum, just
Mhm.
because they do really like that swimming space. When they're little, they can get away with things a little more. It's just as they're bigger, they start running into decor more and just being
Dumb.
big bumbling idiots. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
what they do. So
But they're pretty. So
they sure
They are
are.
pretty.
And they never hide. People
Right.
complain about fish being shy or being fussy to eat. This is never a problem with rainbows. They eat whatever you put in the tank.
they're
They do.
beggars.
Yeah,
First.
they do. And they're always front and center.
Mm-hmm.
You always see them, which is so nice. So
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
I like the turquoise. They're never colored down.
They're always
They're
beautiful.
always that color.
And the females are beautiful too, which in some
They
rainbows, most rainbows, the females are drab, but the turquoise, they're always pretty, males and females.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to love them when they get more mature because the males, they'll turn gold, and olive colored and black and lemon. They're really, really pretty when they fire up.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna really like them. They grow slow though.
They do, but that's okay.
Question for you, Steven.
Yeah. So what's the big purple plant? I'm assuming
crypt?
this one right here.
That one?
I mean, the lighting is
Hard to tell with
making
the
it
light.
look more purple, but it's more red in person. But I kind of like dim the lighting on this and looks a little purple. But it's a Socarno sword. You think you want it because it looks
Jodi
great.
could have a Socarno sword because she's a 200-gallon tank.
Yeah.
But
Now,
even for a 90-gallon tank, oh God.
Oh, behind my head. Oh, it is the crypt, and also the lighting.
Yeah.
Okay, let me let me do this. I will disappear myself from.
Hi, Steven's face.
Bye.
Oh,
Okay, that's just a big ass crypt tropica, and again, it's under Chihiro's lights. It was in the latter part of the day, so the light's a little warmer, so it looks purple, but it's like a bronzy-ish. Yeah.
I have seen that crypt clump in person, and it is really, really pretty. It's really
I
nice.
divided it so many times, and it just keeps coming back.
Yeah. You use a different light spectrum than I do in your Chihiros. I don't use as much red as you do.
No.
But that's personal taste.
Yep,
That's
you can adjust it however you want.
Yep. I just prefer maybe more blue than red. I have a lot of blue fish. I don't really have many red fish.
And I'm back.
Your head has reappeared.
I've had that crypt in that tank for over 5 years.
So nice.
Even before CO2, it grew pretty big. It's just a crypt, so
giving it to lots of people.
Yep, it's the crypt that keeps on crypting.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I thought I saw a question up here, but I don't know what it is. You know, I'm doing my best, but you guys are chatty, and I love it. But it's hard to keep up. It's hard to keep up, and we have so many new people. Gardaki's Playground. I mean, there's a new name. I don't.
I saw someone with the name Ashley that came in, and I forgot to acknowledge. So if she's still here, hi Ashley.
Hi Ashley. I mean, every week we get new people, and it's so wonderful. So GRB Aquatic says the indicator solution in a drop checker is typically a mixture of water with 3.0 DKH carbonate hardness, along with bromothymol blue. That is also what I recalled. And that's why it kind of works in a range of like 2 to, I don't know, like 8 or.
Yeah, like just very roughly.
If you have kind of averagey water, it'll work for you. If you have something at the extremes, like 1 degree KH or Jodi hard water, 15 or
Jodi hard.
Yeah, I had 22 when I lived in Iowa. 22
That's nuts.
22 GH in Coralville, Iowa.
Aptly named.
Yeah. But then the drop checker doesn't work as well. So
yeah, the drop checker will be like piss yellow, and it might still not be quite enough CO2.
And I was really riding the struggle bus living in Iowa with my shitty regulator. Lights weren't as good back then because, you know, they didn't have these LED lights back in, you know, this would have been, I started in like, as an adult, started fish keeping in like, I think 2005 or so. And LED lights, they weren't really in the hobby until like, I don't know, 2012-ish. They were just starting in 2010. They were expensive then, so nobody had them. All lights were expensive. All lights were expensive then.
Jesse, I'm using OBS with StreamYard, which is I can just like disable my camera, and then the greens, like the video on the green screen, is enabled. So, a question from Ryan to Kelly.
Hi, Ryan.
Thoughts on Chihiros or other RGB lighting for accuracy of color? Seems highly controversial in the rainbow fish space, as you experience firsthand.
Yeah, it is controversial, and I have experienced this firsthand, and I am of mixed opinions about it. So I haven't found a way to get every fish looking the way I want it to, honestly. I don't have many fish that are orange or red. I don't really like the color red, so I don't seek those out. My Bosemani look kind of fake, in my opinion. They look much more red magenta than they should, than if they were under sunlight. The trade-off for that is all my blue and green rainbows look fabulous. They look so good. They just sparkle. So my my trifasciata from Cohen River. Oh, God, they look so good. They're just like emerald green and sparkling. My turquoise are just so blue and sparkling. Even my baby pictas are so pretty because, you know, they're more purpley blue. So anything that's under blue and green, I found looks really good. I limit the red because I think it looks too artificial. I just don't like it. I think the plants, it's not to my taste. And everybody can have their tanks how they look, how their taste is. So rainbows are not going to look accurate. And I probably would no longer post pictures, especially of my Aves Creek, Melanitania, Bosemani. I would not post them anymore because they look weird. I mean, I don't know if you can see them behind me.
Actually, I'm going to start posting my rainbows on that group because I'll do whatever the fuck I want because I like the way my fish look. And I'm going to say, come at me. Look at my red ass Aves Creek or by Tinjo Bosemani.
Complain about it because, like, we're really used to seeing people from Asia post that. But you can see, look how red they look in the tails. And that's just not to my taste.
Good to me.
I mean, I would rather they looked more orange. But again, everybody can have their tanks to their taste. It's just a compromise with it. I haven't found a way to make it look.
Somebody remind me to post my Bosemani on Rainbow Fish Live today. I'm not gonna. It's been a while. Oh, I know you're not.
I don't think
and Gary Lang's not there anymore either. So
I don't think anybody's gonna say anything just because we're very used to seeing people from Asia post.
So Mandarin, have either of y'all had experience with the Chinese algae eater or the flying fox?
I have. So when I was a kid, we always had Chinese algae eaters. And okay, on the one hand, I love that fish because they're really fun to watch. They're really active and they're cute and they, you know, they do eat algae really well. The downside is they get really long and they're very aggressive. And if you get a mean one, they can kill every fish in your tank. So I don't recommend them. In the 80s, we just didn't know better. It's kind of what was available, and it was better than a common pleco, which is a terrible fish. Because a common pleco gets like that big and is a poop machine. So, you know, when I was a kid, like we really liked the Chinese algae feeder we had. It was fun to watch. But as it got big, it got mean, and it would kill fish. So,
yeah,
I haven't had a common flying fox. I haven't heard good things about them, but I don't have experience with it. I would avoid the Chinese algae eater. The Siamese algae
standard.
Eater. Yep. The Siamese algae eater, I love them. And any tank that's 40 gallons or bigger, I would totally use them in. I think they're great algae eaters. I think they're fun to watch. And they're pretty peaceful. I think they're good fish.
Yeah, I made the mistake of keeping them.
Yeah.
Not in a big enough group, and they do get aggressive if they are lonesome.
Oh, yeah, I guess I always have like at least a couple of them, so I haven't had a problem. But my other fish in that tank are rainbows. They can hold their own with rainbows. They're fine because they're not shy. There are some fish probably are not a good match for them, but the fish I keep, they're fine. Chinese algae eaters I would just avoid in general.
Yeah, I was told to avoid them early on. So
do they still sell those? I haven't seen
I'm sure.
Yeah.
They still sell common plecos.
I think Chinese algae eaters are cute though. I love their little sucker mouth. I love watching them work at the tank and clean algae. They're good algae eaters. But
before we get more into questions, Jodi, did you come with any specific questions we haven't covered yet?
Probably just what to look out for with your fish, and then as far as fertilization goes, how do you start sorting that out once you've added CO2?
For fertilizer, you're going to want to increase how much you
Mm-hmm.
fertilize. So I don't know what fertilizer you're using right now.
I just have Easy Green.
Yeah, and that works fine. And if that works for you, there's no reason to change from it.
Holy shit, it's be like 20 pumps a day.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's the reason, because you're gonna have to fertilize more.
Yeah.
It depends. You don't have a lot of plant mass yet.
No, not yet.
But eventually you're gonna. And if you add a bunch of stems, they grow faster. I fertilize every time I feed the fish. I do a full daily dose of Easy Green. In this tank, I do 1.5 doses because I have a lot of outside of the tank plants too that really suck it down. So you're just going to have to see, but I'm guessing you're going to probably triple the amount of fertilizer you add from what you're doing now.
Yeah, like if you're doing twice a week, you're going to probably do 6. Like you might go to every day. Like I'm full dosing this one every day, nine pumps a day, and then I've got another tank where I'm double dose every day, but it's just a 15 gallon. So.
I do 6 pumps a day in this 40, and I do 9 pumps a day, or 10. I do 10 pumps a day in this tank right here. You're just going to have to see. You don't have a ton of plant mass yet, so I would just I would triple what you're doing.
Okay,
is a good place to start.
Yep, it'll be a lot.
And just see. Maybe it's too much. Usually it's my problems are always add more. I've never had an I'm adding too much problem. It's never been a problem with CO2. So
I haven't found the fertilizer to be the algae trigger. It's usually something else, like the plants were already suffering, and I'm just like feeding algae at that point.
If you get tired of spending the money on Easy Green, which I totally get with a big tank, you can buy dry fertilizers. You can buy them either from GLA or from Nylock G. They're very cheap that way. And you can measure them with measuring spoons, the powder direct. You can measure it right into your tank. You don't need to make a stock solution. And you can look up a calculator online. You can use what's called EI dosing, estimative index. It's by Tom Barr, and that's a good place to start. You can go more or less depending. On
you don't have to be like super accurate where it says like add X amount of milligrams, and then they try to equate it to like that's 1/64 a teaspoon plus 1/32 of a teaspoon plus 1/8 of it. Just you get a sense for like, okay, a pinch of micros, got it.
Well, with a big tank, it won't be a pinch. It'll be like
it'll be a fist of micros.
You'll be adding it by the tablespoonful, but it is inexpensive. The reason I did do that for many years because that's what I had available. I don't do it now because I'm lazy and can afford Easy Green. I mean, but if I were doing 20 pumps a day, I'm like, oh God, this is expensive.
I was just going to measure it out in a measuring cup and then pour it in there from there on.
Oh yeah, the pumps, that gets annoying too. Yeah, or you could use like a shot glass or little measuring cup, like a glass measuring cup, close enough. But that gets expensive. Steven, did Corey tell you if he was working on the bulk?
He is. What he was telling me the issue is, like they have the store use only jug of it, and it seems kind of sturdy. And I've certainly gotten bottles similar to that in the mail without leaking. But what happens is when you stop shipping it to like one group of people and you scale up, you try to ship it nationwide, a lot of those bottles end up busting in transit and it becomes a headache. So I think he's still looking for a bottle that doesn't do that or does that as minimal as possible.
And I get that. It is something I hope he can do because it would be nice to cut down on plastic usage. I would love to buy a big refill bottle
yeah.
of it. And for people who have great big tanks like you, would save money. But for now, your option for saving money is dry ferts, which is very economical.
If I had a big ass tank like that, 200-gallon, I think that would be my dry fert tank for sure. Just
yeah,
if
or
I was
I
doing
guess
high energy like that.
What I would probably do is I would auto dose. So
That
you can
sounds
get
easier.
you can get an auto doser. I mean, I haven't never tried it personally, but if I had a big tank, maybe I would. I don't think they're hard to set up. You can get them at Bulk Reef Supply, and you can just make up the bulk stock solution of ferts all at once and do that. Or you could just use Easy Green and add that. Either one of those is a fine option, but those auto dosers are not expensive. Chihiro's makes one. I don't know if if it's worth getting the. I mean, I haven't priced them out or looked at.
I'm gonna order a cheap Amazon one soon, and I'll
or
let you
Bulk
know.
Reef Supply has lots of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, but it's not hard. It's not like complicated. There's no reason it should be expensive. Let's put it that way, because it doesn't need to be that accurate, and it's just a pump.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't need to be fancy, and if it fails, it's not the end of the world. Like, it's not gonna like ruin your floors or kill all your. Well, I guess it could kill all your fish if it like dumped all of it in there, but it's probably gonna fail off.
Yeah.
It's not gonna fail on. That's just not how pumps work. So that would be my recommendation, but I've never tried it.
Okay.
Vibes with his $1.99 super chat.
Cottage cheese fun. Well, that's money never getting
trash.
spent.
Favorite thing in our tanks. I refuse to pick a favorite thing. I gotta have all the things.
All right, Jodi, what's your favorite thing in your big tank? You have lots of tanks, but what about that?
Probably, I don't know, right now, because they're so elusive, the vampire shrimp.
Okay. You know, for me, I have a lot of rainbows right now, and I love all of them in different ways. But I would have to say right now, I think it's those Cohen River trifasciatas. They look so good. So good. So good. But it's hard to decide because I love all my rainbows. I love them all. I guess I like my other fish too, but I love
Is your
them.
husband like smashing things in the other room?
No, he just fed the dogs.
Oh, it just sounds like total destruction happening.
I know.
That's funny.
So I've got my headset on and it picks up everything. So now I'm sure you're hearing the dogs eat.
It's the noise cancellation combined with the actual noise going on. It makes it sound like there's like glass shattering and stuff like that. But it's not loud. It's not loud.
Okay.
Dogs. Oh my goodness.
They're whining because they're hungry. They're about 30 minutes late on their meal.
Oh my goodness. There's the animal cruelty in your house.
I know. It's like they're never fed ever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, those poor dogs.
And thank you, Vibes, for the $1.99 again with a reminder to post my rainbows.
You post them up. Post them
I
up.
will.
You know, especially your pictas. Post them up because they're so beautiful. And I love pictas.
I remember the last time I posted my pictas, some guy was like, I don't think those are pictas. I'm like, I don't care.
I'll tell them
they're pretty.
You know what? If anyone says your pictas don't like pictas, look like pictas, I'll just ban them.
There you go. I'll report them.
Absolute power. I don't care.
And then I will set up a hybridizing breeding tank. Like, I'll show you what's not picta. So Rachel says Corey looked into powdered ferts to avoid the leakage issue. I think he's talked about that before. I forget what the issue is, but
the issue with powdered ferts is you have to mill them very finely because the crystals have different densities, and so they settle at different kind of like strata into the container. And so then if you take just a scoop from the top, they're not evenly mixed. So that's the problem. Now, if you measure your dry fert separately, you don't have that problem. But
Right.
then it is no longer easy green. It's kind of like fussy green, which is not a popular product.
Fussy green.
You know, fussy green is just
Pain
not
in the ass green.
pain in the ass green is not going to
Screw
sell.
this, I quit green. All right.
Yeah, so he would need to mill it very finely. But there's lots of all-in-one fertilizers available that are dry in the terrestrial plant world. I mean, Miracle Grow has been for sale forever. And lots of companies make really,
There's
really good
and
terrestrial blends.
I
So
want to say P&W or Sacramento. I think it's a friend of Luke's where there's a fertilizer called Hector's Everything, which is a all-in-one dry fert.
yeah, as long as it's milled finely. So what you can do to make that is you would you'd mix it in a solution and it would get all evaporated together and then powdered, so it would be not distinct crystals that you'd mix. So it's just a manufacturing issue, but it would be great to have that. And then you had a little scoop that came with it, and you'd add a certain number of scoops. So
Jodi P, how many days in a row is this now?
Jodi's making the rounds. She's popular.
I am.
Everybody wants Jodi as their guest.
Yep.
Oh. Just getting comfortable enough to say yes. I know.
Then the floodgates open.
Yeah, it did.
It's great. It's great. Maybe you'll start a stream of your own.
Maybe someday.
Yeah. It's pretty fun. I mean, I have done a stream of my own before, and once in a while I'll pop up. But it's good to have a co-host. It's not very fun to stream alone. It's not fun.
I think my dog just peed in the garage.
Dog.
He's going through a phase where he likes to mark things right now. So somebody's getting neutered here in a couple of weeks. It's that time.
This is what happens when you're territorial. You lose your balls.
Yep.
You lose your balls.
Shouldn't have done that.
Damn.
June asks us, how do you know when to fern? I mean,
when
I
to
don't
fert.
know. Oh,
when do you know when to fert?
I was going to be like, I don't know. I like ferns all the time. They're great. To fert. I mean, if you see like the tips of your plants look kind of crappy looking and weak, like especially your dog ferns.
Then you should have been ferting all that time.
You should have been ferting. Start adding more. I would always fertilize it, let's say minimum once a week. Minimum. But it's trial and error. It's really trial and error.
Do the water change, fill it up, add some ferts with your dechlorinator, something like that.
Yeah, it's trial and error because we don't know what lights you have or bioload you have or, what plants you're growing. It's hard to say. So it's a little trial and error. But I would say minimum once a week.
Yeah, Alec. It says Alec, Miracle Grow has way high ammonium. I wouldn't put that in the tank.
Don't use it in your tank. However, you can use it outside, and I use it in my containers, and it's great for that, and it's very cheap. But don't use it in your tank. So I use it in like all my potted plants.
Just hope you don't have those squirt ferts. A lot of fun can be had with ferts.
Sure, or ferns. When to fern.
Don't push it.
So Zenny implores you, Jodi, to stop torturing your poor puppies.
They're not tortured anymore. They are properly fed.
Okay.
And properly
I have a feeling that those are some spoiled dogs.
Yeah, they are. They're definitely spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did just have to kick them out in the cold snow, though.
Go make some yellow snow.
Well, he tried to make a yellow chair in the garage, I guess is what happened.
Oh, dog.
Yeah.
Outside.
I have never had a dog that was fully intact before, so
Haven't either.
this was our first, and
Yeah.
well, it's gonna suck for him in a short time. So
Yeah. I've never had a puppy. I've always
Really?
adopted older dogs. Yeah, I've never
We
had
mostly had female dogs, so like the territorial marking
Yeah.
wasn't an issue.
right. We adopted both these as puppies. They were both about 3 months old or so, at separate times. But one was already neutered. Did I get that right? Neutered. I always
Yes,
mess those two up.
males are neutered.
So, and he shouldn't really have been until he hit about the 2 mark because he's so much larger. And neutering them too early is really hard on them.
Heard
And
that.
their growth hormones, they don't their growth plates close too early, so they end up with a lot of dysplasia.
Joints, yeah.
Oh wow.
So we were waiting as long as we could with this one, Frisco, and he's not going to get much bigger, so he's probably going to max out about 50, maybe 60 pounds.
That's a lot of dogs.
And it is, I mean, he's pretty agile. Compact little shit is what he is. He's a good little shit though, most of the time. But he is
small dogs. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, Copper's 90 pounds.
Oh God, that's a
And
dog.
our old dog was 120. It was another brindle. Who knows what he was really.
Yeah,
But
I've only had little dogs. I've had my dog who passed away was I do need another dog. It's true. My dog who passed away was a miniature schnauzer.
mhm.
And then before her, I had a Westie and a Maltese mix. And then before that, I had another schnauzer. So I've always had kind of smallish dogs. And I think I would always have, I think the cats would be terrorized if I got a 120-pound dog.
Yeah,
Ours sleep
probably.
together.
Oh,
It didn't start off that way, but we're there.
My cats did really love my dog. Because
Yeah.
everybody loved my dog because she was the best.
Thank you, Nancy.
Mhm.
So, but it's true. Nancy is right. It is time for me to get another dog.
Mm-hmm.
The universe will just has a way of making it happen sometimes. So
The dog distribution system is a little different from the
it's a
cat
little
distribution.
different.
You have unlimited
is.
cats.
Oh God, I can't have any more cats. Jesus Christ, cats. But I got my dog. I wasn't even intending to adopt a dog that day. I was there to check on a dog I'd found outside. And I'm like, well, I'll just see and look around. And well, there you go.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is time. So, all right.
300-watt LED grow light hung from the ceiling to start growing plants out the top. Bad idea.
Nice.
Too much. Plenty of algae eaters in the tank already.
I mean, if it's hung from the ceiling high enough, which, if you're growing plants out, it's not going to affect what's in your tank at all.
Yeah, I have one above the mosh pit.
Yeah.
It's not 300 watts.
Yeah, and I have. Do you see these 2 black lights? Those are just cheap grow lights from, just from Amazon. And then up here, I have two lights on my hydroponic wall. And I have no clue what wattage they are. They're just LED lights. They're cheap.
I assume that's like the 300 watts is like equivalent because a 300 watt worth of LED seems pretty insane.
I can't. But as long as they're sufficiently above your tank, which you need for room for the plants to grow, I think it's going to be fine. I don't think it's not going to affect what's in your tank at all. If you look at these Chihiros lights, and I'm going to flip one up so you can see just how intense they are.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's like surface of the sun bright.
That's why I have my camera pointed a little down, even with the shades on. It's just at the right angle because you look up.
Incredibly bright. And that is not even turned up the whole way. These ones on here, I have cranked up the whole way because this is a deep tank. So your pendant light, which is really not all, it's not even going to be. I mean, if you compare it to like this, It's nothing compared. It's just nothing. Like I can look at that without it hurting my eyes. The Chihiros, I had it up on legs. It was giving me a headache from the bleed out from it. It's so incredibly bright. And even cheaper tank lights, they're so much brighter. So much brighter.
Even only at like 44%, it's really bright.
Yeah.
An old weed tent grow light. So it's probably a pretty
those are a little
light.
brighter. They're a little brighter. I still, if it's hanging up a decent, like a decent amount above the tank, don't worry about it.
Bougie paying her fee for being tardy. She just got here. So
oh no.
Pet kitty volleyball fund or puppy fund. So you choose.
I know. So I got the cats. This was Jake's Valentine's Day present because who says romance is dead? I got a Litter Robot 4, which is this auto scooping litter box. It's like got a rotating drum, and it's got like an app to like sense when the cats are using it. And this was stupid expensive. This is Jake's Valentine's Day present because he's the one who cleans the litter boxes. And I'm like, well, could make his life better and make the cats' lives better. And he's like, yes, I would love this. This is great. But we had it for 3 days and no cat even looked at it. I'm like, come on, just check it out. And I put it's called litter attractant, but I'm pretty sure it's got catnip in it. And they finally
they go and roll in it then?
I think cats have pooped in it because there was poop in the bottom. So Fat Kitty used it last night, and then Tiny Kitties were like, oh, I can use it too. Big Kitty, he has not acknowledged it yet. He's going to be the hard one. I don't know if he'll ever use it because he's so big and fluffy. I don't know if he feels like he's comfortable in there.
So you said you found poop in it, but you think the cat's pooped in it. I would like to know what the alternative scenario would be. If you found...
We put some poop in there and ran the cycle just so there would be the scent of poop in there so they would know it was a litter box. Because they're used to like the great big pans. They've never used a covered litter box. So I think this was new poop.
Or Jake, apparently.
I don't know, maybe Jake pooped in it. I mean, Jake's the one who put the poop in there. So, but
there you go.
I mean, I'm hoping that I would love it if they would all just use this and we didn't have to have any traditional litter boxes. That would be great. But I don't know. But it was so much money, guys. Like, God, come on, fucking cats. You just got to work with me.
Yeah, we had a cat genie, which actually used plastic litter pellets. They washed and then drained. Like you could hook it up to your laundry drain or a toilet or something. It actually worked really well, but the main drawback was those plastic litter pellets were very light and very sticky, and so you would find it everywhere, and the couches, on the bed. It was just. They were supposedly clean, but they're not that clean. It's just not worth it.
Yeah,
if it solved that problem, it would have been great.
Yeah, and this they can use like traditional regular litter, like any clumping litter. So this is just like, I think we're using like Arm & Hammer brand litter, like nothing fancy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so God, Julian's Fish Shed says, fine, if they won't use it, I will. It's my gift. Well, I mean, it was his gift. So, so we've been like, and like Jake has the app on his phone too. So like, we've both been like monitoring the cats all day. Like, come on, cats, you can do it. You can do it, cats. So, but I mean, they have, and like it weighs the cat so it can tell which of your cats have used it. Cause my cats are all 3 pretty different weight. I mean, Tiny Kitty is like under 9 pounds and Fat Kitty is 13 pounds. And then Big Kitty is like 20 pounds. So
that's Big Kitty.
He's a big boy. He's a big boy. He's a big fluffy boy.
Embrace the bougie
I
lifestyle.
know. I mean, but it's bougie for my fucking cats. It's not even for myself.
It's for
That's like the
convenience.
best part,
Convenience
though.
is bougie.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, it's true because nobody likes scooping a litter box. Nobody likes it.
It's a really good way to monitor your cat's health, though.
This is true. This is true. I mean, if they would all get on board with it, it'd be great because it weighs them every day. And yeah. Zenny says the cats haven't learned to listen to their bodies yet. Have you considered having Eric sing to them? I mean, he'd do it. That's what we need. I mean, every time they go in the room, like we need Eric singing, listen to your body. Go poop in the little Robots 4.
Like Rachel said, wish someone would cheer me on when I poop.
I know. I mean, I'm trying to be cool about it. Like, I don't want to, like, Tiny Kitty is very skittish. She gets scared. So, like, it's in the other room. I'm trying to just, like, let them figure it out on their own. Big Kitty, though, I think I'm going to have to put him in there. I don't know.
That would be handy, though.
Notify you if there's blood or stool in the urine. No.
There are certain litters that do that, though.
Yeah. That kind of litter apparently doesn't work quite as well with these. Like, you can use the crystal type litter, but it doesn't clump as tightly. You want like a standard cheap clumping litter, like Tidy Cat or Arm & Hammer, any of those.
Yeah.
So Ryan asked, have we played with immersed propagation boxes? If so, preferred substrate setup and lighting. I haven't, but if the member plant program grows any further, I might have to.
He's gonna have to grow them in his yard in Louisiana.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I have a little bit. I've certainly grown lots of plants immersed, right? Like, I'm always growing them out of my tanks, and I have my hydroponic wall. When I was in grad school, I grew jars of crypts, and I would just use aqua soil. That worked. I ultimately think that like a terrarium mix maybe works a little better. I've also used Leca, which is very cheap. That's what I use right now for my immersed plants. In general, I am just not very into like propagation boxes and all that. I don't find them very aesthetically pleasing. And I grow plants for my aesthetics. So I haven't done a lot of it.
What is the name of that channel? Is it Aquarium Plant Lab?
I don't know that one.
Yeah, Aquarium Plant Lab.
Yep.
I have another one too.
I've seen people use like sweater boxes that they've poked holes in the tops of, so there'll be some gas exchange, and then just use like whatever cheap lights work fine because the sweater boxes are transparent.
Yeah,
and
the
then
Aquarium Plant Lab, they are growing the hell out of a bunch of immersed plants, like, and they've got a big immersed like propagation system, like a dry start type thing. So that would be a good place to look for info on that.
You want to make sure you keep your humidity up. That's why the sweater boxes are nice. You could also use like if you had an old tank, just cover the top of it. You put saran wrap over the top. Do it that way. It's a nice thing to use, like a tank that maybe if it has a crackle, like one of the side seals is not holding water real well, you could use it for that.
Yeah. Lando, I haven't seen you around in a while. Welcome.
Lando changed her name. That's exciting. Where and what brand of Leca do you use? I have never found a difference in any Leca. You can just get it on Amazon. I think it's all the same. It's all like expanded clay, and I've never noticed a difference in it. So any Leca is fine, and it is all cheap. Yeah.
Cool.
But it's pretty lightweight, which is why it's nice to use in like immersed baskets for growing plants out of your tank. And that's also what I'm using in the hydroponic wall that I have up here is Leica. And I'm using Leica that just came with the system, but Leica is Leica.
Let's see.
Or maybe it's pronounced Leica. I have no idea. So June says, I can't leave a tank or box like anything. It must attract cat poop. Free fertilizer, June.
Oh.
June is an expert on cat poop. She's a world expert.
So who is streaming after us? I don't think
Is
the
Scotty
Steam
going?
Thoughts are scheduled. Scotty is not streaming. Hagen Hill is scheduled. So there we go.
There you go. Your night is a little
Mondays.
easier than sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the baby's got to be coming soon for the Steam Thoughts.
Yeah, they just had to had a scheduled C-section for Saturday, but
Right.
they're both sick last week. So
not a good time. Not a good time. You don't want to do that. As for Scotty, he's exhausted from staying up until probably 3 a.m. listening to the police scanner in Philadelphia. He's exhausted.
Well,
worn himself out.
Whatever you want to do with your time, you know.
Maybe Scotty was off rioting. Who knows?
Yeah, Garden of Eden, they go at 8 o'clock Central.
Yep. Always a good time. I know Shelby posted she was editing. She just spent a ton of time editing a video. Probably, I'm guessing for who is it she's repping now?
Pisces.
Right. I would imagine that's what she edited it for. I would be interested in that. I always want to hear what Shelby has to say. She's so smart. So that's a thing you could check out. But
and then Fishy Biz Aquatics is the only 3 scheduled streams I see for today.
Kind of a light Monday compared to some Mondays. I mean, you know, it used to be Thursday was the big night of the week, but now it's kind of Monday. Mondays are crowded.
Well, yeah. Well, 2 minutes until Hagen Hill, so I think we'll wrap this up. Anything else y'all wanted to say before we go?
No, I think I got my questions answered for the most part. I'm sure I'll call on you guys again.
Yeah. Anytime anyone has any questions, the Fish Court is a good place to start.
Exactly.
Tag us or just ask in the sections and someone will find it.
And maybe once you are really going and your stuff's grown in, maybe we'll have you back on and see what your progress is. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
I'd like that.
Yeah. But thank you for joining us. This was a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Yeah, we really wanted to have you on, and I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Me too. I'm not calling the dinosaurs home anymore, so that's pretty awesome.
Oh God, that was not good times. That was not good times. But we can't wait to see your tank, how it turns out. And we love seeing your dogs and your cat. That's exciting.
They like their 15 seconds.
Well, they got to get in there.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone who came to chat. So many new people. We love having you. If you lurked, thank you for lurking and maybe consider de-lurking next time. We love to have new people.
Thanks to the replay crew.
Yeah. And thanks to our mods. Thanks for dropping all those links for us. Thank you to our super chatters, putting Fat Kitty through college. Thank you. And funding Steven's cottage cheese addiction.
Yeah, good luck with that. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.